Hello everybody. Evan Abrams here. Some video challenges for you. All this month I'll be hanging out with you, giving you some challenges that you can do using Adobe video apps. I'm a motion designer based out of Ottawa, Ontario. So if you notice I have an outrageous accent, that is why. And today we're going to be creating some morphing type effects, changing from one type of an object into another. We're going to use some effects inside of After Effects that many people maybe don't touch a lot. So hopefully this will be a good kind of primer into those. If you have any questions, you let me know in the chat. I'll try to help you out as best I can. And if you want to recreate what I'm doing exactly the way I do it, you can get your hands on the files available in a link somewhere in the description. Get your starter files here, it says. So check those out and you can enjoy the various objects downloaded from Adobe stock, and we can start morphing them. So let's get to it. All right, here's my screen. I've got my face down in the corner so that I'm not obscuring any of the special switches and buttons. And here's what we're making. We are going to be making this apples to bananas situation. Banana turns into apple, apple turns into banana. It's a real smoothie situation going on over here. So one thing that you will notice is that the in-between stage between apple and banana is mango, I guess. But this is because we are morphing from one picture of an apple to one picture of banana. Now, morphing, kind of like how Power Rangers morph from dynamic teens into monster fighting team, that's sort of what we're doing here. We are going to be going from this beautiful picture of an apple into this beautiful picture of banana. And you can start with any photos. I recommend, if you are going to be doing this, that you use things that have a similar complexity of silhouette to them. And you'll start to see why in a minute. But to get started, we should just take these objects and stick them in one composition. So I'm going to create a new comp here. I'm going to make it just a smooth 2000 by 2000 pixels, totally fine. Keep our frame rate however we like. We want the duration to be long enough to sort of encompass whatever we end up doing with this. And let's just go ahead and call this the morph zone, I guess. This is where the morphing is going to happen. Then we're going to bring in our apple and our banana down onto the timeline. And we want to scale and position these in the relative way that the two things are going to turn into each other. So we're going to go from an apple in this position, this orientation, and it's going to become a banana that is going to be in sort of this size, this orientation. Let's turn it around so we get the stem at the top and maybe something like this. So the reason that we want to do this will become more clear later, but basically we're going to be going from this shape of the apple to that shape of the banana, which means you want to pay attention to the silhouettes on the things and keep kind of similar features that you want to turn into each other close in proximity. We don't want to make them do a big reach. And question, where did I get that Hawaiian shirt from? This is a Winners right here. This is a Winners number. Because I like to go to places that have off-market clothing. Thrift stores are your best friend for excellent shirts. So here we go. This apple to this banana. We've got them positioned exactly how we want. The next thing you want to do is to pre-compose them. Command-Shift-C in my case. And I want to move all the attributes to the new composition. So this is going to be called like apple in place. So this is the apple as we want it to be, where we want it to be. And when you do this form of pre-composing, notice that the frame size is now this composition's size. And this is really important. We're going to do that again here. Command-Shift-C for me, pre-composing. You can access this from the menus if you want to pre-compose stuff. But we are moving all the attributes to the new composition. So this is banana in place. Now the purpose behind this is because we are now going to draw masks, and masks are very layer relative. So if we were to leave these sort of alone, we would have two masks that could be the same size and shape, but they're not really because we drew them on layers that themselves are not of the same scale. So doing something like this, harmonizing our assets, really critical. And if at this point you think, oh, well, I want that apple to be slightly different, you want to come in here and mess with the apple in this zone. All right. So back to the morphing. Step 2, put masks on your fruits. Yeah, that's a normal thing people say. Put masks on your fruits. And in this case, I want to try to use as few points as possible when I mask this. So I'm going to be pretty fast and loose with my masking here. I'm going to basically start with just trying to define the curves a little bit around, kind of like this. Be able to just do a kind of bad job of doing this stuff like there. Your masking tools are your best friends. So you click and you drag, you hold down space to move the point around, you get the line as close as you can, and then you'll go back and fix it later. And hey, look at that, I nailed it. I like to come into the mask and say none, just leave it as none, give myself a nice, vibrant, bright color so I can really see what I'm working on. And we want to do here, maybe you want like a dark color if you really want to be able to see this on a light thing. So that's really helpful if you're drawing masks. Now, if you're having trouble getting these points where you want, just add another point and kind of push it out and sort of try to find the way to make this happen. Now, to make this whole thing work smoothly, my advice is to always, always, always try to get this done with as few of points as possible, with the caveat, the caveat, that you want a very similar number of points between the two masks that we are going to create. So if we make a mask that has 10 points, well, try to get the other one close to 10 points as well. That'll be helpful for us when we're trying to figure this stuff out. And we don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be picture perfect with this. You could use the auto trace tools if you want. I find that generally will result in masks that are a bit too extreme for my taste. So let's see. I'll put some points down here, and I'll push this up here, and I'll try to just, there we go. And now we've got our stem, and there we go. Okay, I nailed it. So we got the apple done. So now that I have the apple shape on the apple, I can set this to add, and I need the banana shape. So let's go ahead and get the banana shape on the banana. So here we go. We got the banana in place over here. Let's draw the banana shape. Just got to keep an eye on the time to make sure that I'm not, really letting this get away from me. And we'll draw the banana. So again, we're trying to use as few points as possible. Try to be a little bit judicious with our banana shape. We still want to be pretty even-handed. Whenever you are sort of describing a shape with paths, it can be really helpful to think about looking at transitional points where things sort of change over from one to the other. Like if I put a point here, I'm sort of guaranteeing this is going to be a tight corner. So maybe I want to come in here like that. And ooh, there we go. Boy, and I'm not going to deal with the banana's hair up there. We're going to go up here and then down here. Let's see, somewhere around there, because I did one similarly on the other side of the banana. Neck. Stem is what you call this part of the banana. And there we go. Okay, banana. Some words are just fun to say. Okay, so here we go. And again, we set this to none, and we want to just give ourselves as many points as it takes to get this thing looking good, but not so many points that it gets confusing. I'm happy with this. We're gonna call it, well, you know what? Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? I won't let such a thing happen with this. There we go. My OCD will not allow me. Okay, there we go. We got points. So the auto trace, yeah, let me just real quick, I'll show you an example of auto trace on here. So we can go there, and we can go, we can go layer, we want to, where is, I do this so infrequently, that's how you know. We want to, boop, there it is, layer, auto trace, kaboink. And this is going to ask us, say, let's use the luminance channel. Give me a preview of that. And this is what you can see if we attempted to trace the luminance of this. And really it's our threshold number here that's going to help us kind of dial in like that. But you can see how dense these things are. We would have to spend too much time cleaning that up for it to be truly useful for our purposes here. Let us return now to this situation. I believe we had a banana and an apple. There we go. Okay. 20 minutes to go. We already got the banana and the apple. So we have two masks. Big thumbs up for us. And we want to make the apple banana shaped. Make the apple banana shaped. A normal thing that normal people do. And we are going to use the Reshape effect. It is in the Distort family of effects. And I'll just plop that on the apple in place. And let's have the background. There we go. A nice transparent grid for us. And we need to define a source mask. So let's go into the masks and let's name these. We're going to call this apple. And the mask on the banana, we're going to call that banana. And of course, the source mask is going to be apple, obviously. That's the thing we're coming from. Then, what is it going to? Well, I want to go to the banana. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it on the apple in place. You see it right there. We're going to change that from add to none. And what's really useful here is that this is exactly the same as this. Well, unless I've sort of bumped these around. So let's go in here and we're going to go transform, reset those. Clunk. There we go. So now the banana exactly aligns over top of the other mask of the banana. You can see them aligning as I select the two of them. This is really important. Don't not do this. So I want to go from apple shape to banana shape. I'm going to hide the other layer so that we don't have to really worry about looking at it. And I am just going to go ahead and say the destination mask is banana. And as soon as I do that, you can see a line has been drawn from this point to this point. Now, why those 2 points? Well, really, the reason why it's going from this point to that point is because these are both the first vertex. If I select this point and I go mask and path shape, and I say set first vertex, we come back into the reshape. You see the line goes from here to there. This is really important, right? This is important because the common point will attempt to then reshape all of the other points to conform to that as I start to rack this number. So at 0%, we are totally apple shape. And then when we get all the way on this side, we have now become totally banana shape. And that point is the point of commonality between, and then everybody else forms up around that, sort of going around. Now, the way in which one goes to the other is down to this elasticity. So if we say something like loose, go a little looser with it, man. And if we scrub on this, you can see how the loose version is a little bit different than the stiff version or the super fluid version, right? So these are all important and useful things to tweak as you kind of morph between one to the other. And then we also have the interpolation method being, discrete, smooth, linear. There is a corresponding points sort of a deal that you can work out. But right now we've only got the one pair. This is our first time doing this. We're going to just do that. Let's keep it simple while we move forward. The second thing I want to do, going from apple shape to banana shape is great. So let's go ahead and just keyframe the percentage of that. So we're going to go from 0% banana up to 100% banana. Great. We've got the shape happening. But if we were to blend it into the banana, that's not particularly going to be helpful because the banana will be a totally different shape right now. So what we want to do is to actually take the apple mask. So I'll take the apple mask and paste it down here. So now the apple mask lives on the banana layer. I will go ahead and put a reshape on here. I'm going to make sure that we are all using the loose interpolation of things, right? And I want to make sure that the banana is indeed treating this, again, as the set first vertex. So identical mask situations on both of these, right? And what it's going to do is percentage-wise go backwards. So we're going to go from banana to apple, and we will start at 100%. It gets pretty wacky. That got pretty wacky. All right, so let's go here. We're going from banana to apple. See, as this sort of stretches and deforms out to make apple, I think we need to make some changes on this. Actually, you know what? You know, we'll go faster. I will simply switch back cooking show style to the version that I've done before. Boop. So we come back here. So here, we've already got that set up that if we look at the, so like we don't have time to solve all the problems. Got to be conscious of time on these things. If we just kind of isolate what's going on with this, we've got the reshape that is going from apple to banana. Well, the other one goes from banana to apple. And so if we strip away all of these other things, and I'll do that by simply unparenting them from the nulls that they're attached to, you'll see that it is simply morphing from one to the other. And in between, we are changing from one thing to the other. And we're doing that using a couple of effects. So let's start with the one that's on top. So let's just go ahead and remove sort of the effects stack here. We don't need the blur of that. There we go. So let's solo the, we'll say banana up here. So we're only looking at that. And what is the banana sort of doing as it's going, right? What is happening to this as it does this? So this is an apple. This is a banana that's been stretched over the form of the apple. And if we do nothing, it just kind of forms up like that. But what we can do is we can add something called a gradient wipe, or maybe at its most basic, what you would do is just call up its transparency, its opacity. I do that by hitting the T key. And I'll say, well, when it becomes banana shaped, be totally opaque. But at the start, let's not see you at all. And so all it does is fades in, right? And so if we bring on the apple pre-comp under that, you see there's the apple, and then the banana sort of, the banana-ness fades in over top of it, right? And that's okay. I give it an okay for that. But you can do a little bit better by being more nuanced in how that shows up. So what I'm going to use here is called a gradient wipe. Now we can apply that gradient wipe. Let's go ahead and drop that on here, and let's go to where this is fully banana form, and we can really form of banana see how that works. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that the layer is looking at itself for where to take its gradient from. Now what it's doing is it is looking at black and white values of a layer to say how quickly things go away. And so if I start to crank on the transition completeness, you can see that it's going from dark to light. If you want to go the other way, we can invert that and we can go from light to dark. Totally cool way to make that happen. And we can maybe soften that out a little bit. But this gives you a nice sort of more gradual vibe as this stuff shows up or goes away. And so let's go to a time when it's totally not banana. And of course, when it's not banana shape, it's also not banana visible. And it is going to become form of banana. And so we are going to use that transition completeness to have this sort of wipe on like this. So apple, and then the banana is casting over. And so the gradient wipe is a great way to make this a lot more subtle and interesting than it would be if you were just to use opacity and have the whole thing just cross dissolve over top, if that makes sense. So that is a great way to make that work out. And then we also have a kind of blurring happening. So I just deployed a Gauss in the house Gaussian blur over top of these things. And so that the banana itself is getting less blurry as it becomes full banana. So we go from blurry banana to not. And underneath, well, we just do a similar thing to the apple, where the apple is, in this case, becoming blurrier. So if we just observe the apple, not only is the apple becoming banana shaped, the apple is also becoming blurry. Just a word of warning when stacking these types of effects, make sure that your gradient wipe is taking place before the reshaping happens so that things don't get really wacky and weird. So just something to be aware of there. Now, the other layers of this thing, we're not going to have too much time to get into all of them. really counting down the minutes here. If you want to see the full version of this file, please go to the starter files and download all of those, and you can see how the full version comes together. What I can show you here is the idea of making sure that you parent both of these things to a null object and let that null object, that null layer, which you can make by going new, null, we're going to parent these two to that, bloop, like that. So they're parented to null. And this null is doing a lot of rotating and scaling and changing. And this helps to hide the transition point when things are maybe, I'm going to say at their kind of clunkiest. There can be some unpleasant stuff that goes on. Now we've obviously massaged this to be using loose elasticity and everything is nice and cool and it's pretty close. And you can ease your keys, keyframe assistant, easy ease, hit F9, come into your graph editor and you can start to manipulate this to get it smoother, rougher, faster, etc. But having the object do something while it goes through this morphing process, whether it's changing its size, changing its rotation, doing all sorts of interesting stuff, that is a really useful way to hide a morph that maybe isn't working as well as you would hope. It is also a great way to punctuate that a morph is about to happen. So in this case, I'm using rotation to crank one way and then crank it through the other way. So we are rotating clockwise and then anti-clockwise into banana form. So that's a really useful thing to do when you're thinking about these types of transitions and changes, to forecast, to highlight. You might do a kind of scale, like it's going to get small and then pop very large and then get small again. And the big change in scale will correspond to when the most maximal amount of change is happening in the layers. You can also use an amount of motion blur on these. So if you just take those and you motion blur them up, then that amount of rotation is going to add some motion blur and it's going to just harmonize the stuff together. Now, this is a bit of a cheat because of course the banana is curved and so rotating that makes a little bit of sense. If you're going from something that, for example, has a lot of hard edges and then you are transitioning into something that has a lot of soft edges, that can look a little bit strange. But if you download the full version of this thing, you are going to see a bunch of beautiful, beautiful banana to apple transitions as they cascade through, creating this waterfall, this loop. And then finally we get into the final export where we put that on an interesting background. So something to think about, something to work with, something to play with as you explore. I would love to see if you give this a try, if you morph some stuff into other stuff. I want to see it. So share it with myself at EC Abrams on social media. Share it with Adobe Live. So tag at Adobe Live in those things and tell the people that you learned it here. That you learned this sort of weird, interesting stuff going around here. Oh no, it's a pear-shaped apple. So try this type of interesting stuff out and hopefully you have fun with it. I like the suggestion of sort of morphing one face into another face. That's a really great use for this type of thing, because remember, just to recap how this works, you put a mask around stuff, and if the two things are very similar in their sort of size and compositions, and they have similar shapes to them, the morph is going to work even better. Obviously, this is going to be a bit of a test. If you know Kyle Hamrick, the co-host of Motion Design Hotline, he has much more voluminous hair, so you would see some interesting deformations happening there. But those are the types of things to work with. We often see sort of one product turning into another product. It's being disguised with a spin, and this is just helping to make things a little bit smoother as they transition. So I don't want to get cut off. I'm going to say goodbye now. Enjoy the rest of the programming here on Adobe Live, and I'll see you the rest of this month for more video challenges. Thank you so much for watching. Stay creative, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all around the internet. Bye for now.